Welcome back to the Finance Value Guy. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the new state-of-the-art OpenAI O1 model to analyze stocks. So let's not waste any time. That's not what you're here for. Let's get into the video. So the stock I'm going to be trying to analyze in today's video is Tesla, because this is a stock which is purely controversial. And I think it has a lot of investors that are, quite intrigued for what's going on in the future. Now, with Tesla and with the stock that's kind of going on, we want to, of course, analyze the stock. However, previously, I've made a video about how you could analyze a stock with GPT-4o and, of course, Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Whilst those methods are good, the reason I actually want to talk about O1 Preview is because O1 Preview actually has advanced reasoning. Now, because it has advanced reasoning, we could make the assumption that this analysis would be rather better than GPT-4o. And I would say that this is probably the case. So I've done some initial tests already in terms of like how I've thought about how to analyze the stock and the kind of results that I've been getting. And funnily enough, the results are quite counterintuitive in the sense that it's not as much work as you think it would be. It's actually quite simple. So I basically did two things first. One of the things I did first was I went over to the stock of my choice. So for example, like I said before, Tesla was a stock of my choice. And then, of course, I scrolled down to the statistics. And here's where I did something rather interesting. Now, you don't need to do all of what I'm going to do. I'm just showing you guys what I did because I wouldn't say I was lazy, but I'd rather use AI to do as much as possible. So essentially, you want to find your stock. So it could be absolutely anything. I really don't care what stocks you guys buy. Hopefully not awful ones. But, this is Tesla, for example. So this is Tesla. But you basically want to go on Yahoo Finance. This is what Yahoo Finance is. It's going to give you a lot of information. And then what I did was I went on over to the statistics of this. But essentially what we have here is a website that allows you to get all of the necessary data that you do need. So for example, what you can do is you can basically just get as much of the data as you want. So all you really need to do is just copy this information. So just copy this stuff. I'll just copy all of this. So I just click copy. And then you just want to just save this somewhere. I'm not sure where you want to save it. But basically with O1 has some new prompting guidelines, and these were released from OpenAI. So what OpenAI says, and this is how you want to analyze your stocks, is to keep your prompts simple and direct. So you don't want to have too many requests in them. You basically want to ask a straightforward question. In addition, you also want to avoid chain of thought prompts, since these models tend to perform reasoning internally. Asking them to think step by step isn't just something that helps. Of course, using delimiters for clarity is something you also want to do, and limit additional context in RAG, which is RAG. So basically, don't provide too much data to it. You only want to provide the most relevant data. So the first step of this is to craft the prompt. And then once we craft the prompt, we can then feed that into O1. And then once we have that in O1, then we can actually get our analysis done. So this is what I did. So I used this and then I asked Claude 3.5 to give me a prompt. And this was the prompt that it had. Okay. And this prompt does work. So get this prompt. I'll leave a link to this in the description below. So get this prompt, if I can copy this, if I just copy this, just put it anywhere, okay? Just get this and say to ChatGPT, you say craft a prompt using this template, okay? So I've pasted this in, okay? And I've said craft a prompt using this template. So you can see I've said analyze the following stock using, its recent financial data, yada, yada, yada. Then what I've done is, of course, I need to now and go ahead and get this additional data in, okay? So, of course, I need to go to this website, of course, and I need to just copy this. This is where I said, copy this information before. Okay, so we're going to copy this. Then I'm just going to paste this in at the end here. And then, of course, as well, what I also want to do is I want to find industry-wide trends. So, of course, you want to have the, the data of what's going on, the financials, which is, of course, pretty useful. But what I also want is I also want the data in terms of industry-wide news trends and some more qualitative research. So we want this to be, qualitative and quantitative, because those two factors are quite intertwined, and I think they matter more than a lot of people think. So we don't just want the financials. We also want things that are going on in the news, because it's quite important to know the recent updates, what the company's doing, the projected things. So what I use for this personally is I use Perplexity. So I did, I did this. I did, what are Tesla's most recent notable developments? And then it gives you all of this information. So basically, you just copy this information. And what you're doing here is you're doing research. This is the easiest way to do research. I mean, if you're someone that knows like certain, proprietary information about a company or stock, like for example, when I'm going to analyze certain other stocks and I've got pieces of data from research papers that have only just come out that most people haven't priced in, and there's other things that most people aren't talking about. Those are the kinds of things that I'm then going to feed into the model. So whatever data you decide to put into this part is quite, important, because this is going to allow you to, essentially get a better result, because it's going to be analyzing the future trends based on their most recent notable development. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to put this into here at the end once again, and then I'm going to click enter, and then hopefully this gives me a prompt. Okay, and then you can see right here, this gives me the prompt. Okay, so I can just grab this now, and this is when I can go to O1. So I can go to O1 preview, and then I think I could just put this into the chat. I mean, this should work. So there we go. I mean, yeah, so it's thinking now. So now it's going to do the analysis, clarifying financial advice, analyzing financial data, yada, yada, yada. It's going to just, do whatever it is going to do. It thought for 12 seconds. And strangely enough, it actually doesn't give me a buy or sell rating here, which is rather weird, because a second ago it did. And I'm going to show you guys that. So it gives me some evaluation metrics. It gives me, profitability margins, which is stuff just nonsense, because I already knew that. But maybe just try again, because I don't know why it didn't give me the result there. But like I said before, I did this question like 1 minute before, and it did give me the answer. I'm guessing maybe it's because ChatGPT formatted the prompt. But with a Claude formatted prompt, this is the prompt I use. I just use very, very simple stuff like just those 4 right there. I'll share this conversation in the description. But you can see right here, this is where it gives me a very prudent rating, which is hold. So this is where it says, Tesla's high PE ratio of 67.05 suggests that this stock is priced for significant growth year over year, yada, yada, yada. Maybe it's because you need to start a new chat. I think that's probably it. If you start a new chat, maybe if you're talking to it for a while, it might not want to give you financial advice. But I would say just, do what I do, start a new chat, try that, make sure there's not too much details. And this gives us it again. So now I'm going to do it for another stock. I'm going to just do it for one more stock, so we have another example. I'm going to do this for this stock here. So I'm basically going to, get the recent industry-wide trends. I'm going to copy this. This is basically a stock that I'm pretty bullish on for the next 10 to 20 years, because they signed a 20-year deal from Microsoft. Not going to talk about it in this video. I'm not trying to give you guys stock advice. This just basically telling you guys why I chose this stock. I'm going to put it into Claude, give it all the data. Then I'm basically just waiting for the prompt. All I want is a prompt. So there we go. So I'm going to get this prompt now. You can see it gives me 4 bullet points, the data, all that stuff. And then I'm just going to open this up with a new chat. And then hopefully I'm praying that it actually gives me a result, because last time it did when I did it, and it thought for 16 seconds. So this is based on the entirety of the prompt guidelines. And that's not good. If it says navigating policy guidelines, it says it should refrain from giving specific investment advice as this policy disallows it. You can see here that I don't know, for whatever reason, it's not giving it now, but it still gives a pretty good analysis. So even if you're trying to analyze it, you can still see how this is going to give you a nice response. So I did another prompt that I think works a lot better, because basically what tends to happen is that if you look at the thought, what it tries to do is it tries to not in this one, because I've actually perfected the prompt within like the last half an hour. I know I just did a cut, but it's quite hard to get it to actually say hold or buy for some reason. I don't know if it just changed or just glitched. I don't know if dynamically updating or whatever. But with this prompt, I think it works a little bit better. So I said, analyze this stock and tell me, based on your estimates, is it poised for future growth or decline? I included all the recent financial data, and I included the recent news that was going on. So every piece of news, because like I said before, you go into Perplexity. So here you can see that it thinks for 20 seconds. And this prompt works better because usually you'll see in the prompt, it like here when it's thinking, it will say like, oh, I can't provide financial advice. So the only thing that you can say to get around this is to basically say, based on your estimates, is it poised for future growth or decline, which is more likely, which is kind of leaning towards a buy or sell, but you're not explicitly stating that. So it analyzes the revenue and profitability, which, shows, how the profit is, it shows the earnings growth, the ROA, the ROE, all of these things that you're going to need to know. And of course, it shows you the, dividends, yields and stuff like that. And then it comes down to here, such as the positive indicators and the negative indicators. And of course, it says, positive indicators are strategic positioning in clean energy, long-term contracts, like with Microsoft, a strong ROE, return on equity is efficient use of shareholder funds. And then, of course, as with any stock, there are the negatives. So it gives the negative cash flow, the high debt levels, the flat revenue growth. And of course, it says, high P ratios could make the stock less attractive to value investors. So, of course, it basically comes here and says that growth is more likely if the company can do X. So basically it's giving you conditions for future growth, which I still think is pretty useful, considering the fact that trying to use this to analyze stocks is quite difficult, considering they've rigged it to not do that. So I think the only thing that you can do to really like get this to, hopefully you can try the other prompt, hopefully it works. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But with this one, I think this will work because you're basically just saying, is future growth poised or is it not coming? So this is what I would do. And I would test and see which ones work best for you. Of course, share yours as well. Of course, you can try O1 Mini, but I've used O1 Preview, and it basically says a few things that we already know. While the company's strategic direction is promising, especially in the context of global shift towards sustainable energy, of course, there are financial risks identified. Monitoring upcoming financial reports, improvements in cash flow, and debt management would provide better insights into the company's trajectory. So basically, it just gives you, information like, okay, the company might go up if it can do these three things, which is quite useful because it's conditions for its success. So you need to basically, if you wanted to analyze the stock and look at it further, you'd be like, okay, is it going to improve its cash flow? Is it going to reduce its debt? And of course, is it going to capitalize on these, partnerships that it's doing? So you can basically then, once again, like I said before, you can then, in the future, you can come back and say, okay, based on the recent financial data, based on the recent news, is this likely? Okay. And yeah, I think this is, pretty useful. And it's just a bit deeper in the sense that, you can also, look at what they thought about during everything. So if you want to analyze a stock, you can actually look at, the things that it reported, and you can see that it says inconsistent and possibly fictional data is reported. It said the data might be from mid 2024, but questionable details need scrutiny. And it says, the current ratio, yada, yada, yada. However, I'm looking at this area, so it's pretty useful because you can see what it's looking at, and you can see like how things are going in terms of its reasoning area. So I think this is pretty useful. If you guys do have any extra tips, things that I've potentially missed, don't forget to leave a comment down below because it would be useful to see what everyone is doing. But if you enjoyed the video, I'll see you guys in the next one.